I always imagined I'd die in that house, but not like that. Not coughing on smoke at 2 a.m. Not with the hallway glowing orange. And certainly not because of my own son. My name is Margaret Holloway. I'm 69 years old. Widow of a man I loved for 41 years. Mother of one. Grandmother of none. Retired public school teacher. Volunteer librarian. And a firm believer in turning the other cheek until your child tries to roast you like a Thanksgiving turkey in your own bed. Let me take you back because I need you to understand. I didn't raise a monster. At least, I didn't think I did. My husband Bill and I bought that house in 1985, a modest two-story colonial out in Dutchess County, New York. The kind with green shutters, a creaky porch swing, and tulips I planted myself every spring. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. We paid off the mortgage before our 25th anniversary. Built equity. Built memories. Built a life. When Bill died, heart attack, sudden, I thought the worst pain I'd ever feel was waking up to an empty pillow beside me. Turns out, I had no idea what real betrayal felt like. Our son, Kyle, was 38 when it happened. Only child. Bright, charming, always had an answer ready. He got that from his father. What he didn't get from either of us was patience. He came back around the house more after Bill passed. At first, I thought it was concern. He dropped by with groceries or helped clean the gutters. But little things started to nag me. I could sell this for double, Ma, he once muttered, looking at the house app on his phone while standing in the kitchen. He started calling it the asset. Not the house. Not home. The asset. I chalked it up to grief. Mine mostly. I was just trying to keep breathing, get through mornings, remember to eat. I didn't want to believe that my own son might have been circling me like a buzzard. Then, 3 months after Bill's death, Cal brought up the living trust. Just make things easier, Ma. If something happens, the house should transfer clean. You wouldn't want probate and paperwork. I admit it, he caught me off guard. He made it sound so rational, logical, loving even. So I signed. I put the house in both our names. I thought it was just paperwork. And that was my first mistake. The next few months were subtle but steady. Suggestions I move into assisted living, offhand comments about how dangerous stairs get at your age, pamphlets left accidentally on my kitchen table. But I was healthy. Still am. I do yoga on Tuesdays and garden every Saturday. I wasn't going anywhere. And that's when Kyle got impatient. It was early February. Snow still melting into slush in the yard. I had gone to bed with a cup of tea and a book. I remember waking up with a bitter taste in my throat, thinking maybe the kettle burned dry. But no, this was smoke. Thick, acrid, not from the fireplace. I ran into the hallway and saw it, flames curling up the wall by the staircase. My house, our house, was on fire. I grabbed the emergency phone by the bedside. Bill always insisted we keep one with a cord, just in case. I still thank God for that. I crawled out the back, barefoot in snow, coughing like I was hacking up my lungs. When the fire trucks came, I watched the roof collapse from my garden bench. And Kyle? Kyle was already there before the firefighters. Fully dressed. No panic. Just watching. Later, they'd find the fire was started in the utility room. Accelerant used. Gasoline. The insurance company investigated. So did the police. And then I remembered the doorbell camera. He didn't know I had installed one a week before on a whim. Paranoia, maybe. Widow nerves. The footage showed Kyle walking in through the garage after midnight with a red container in his hand. And the next morning, he showed up at the hospital with fake tears and paperwork. Ma, the insurance company needs your signature. We'll rebuild it. You'll move in with me until it's done. I didn't say a word. I just buzzed for the nurse. And when he left the room, I made my second call of the day to the detective. Kyle wasn't arrested immediately. These things take time. But what he didn't count on was the trust. He forgot that I still had final say on the disbursement of assets. And he sure didn't expect what I did next. The hospital walls smelled like bleach and sadness, and my lungs felt like I'd been chain smoking since the 70s. But I wasn't thinking about the fire anymore. I was thinking about revenge. You see, Cal had always been the type to mistake kindness for weakness. He thought because I kept quiet, let him rant, smiled, and nodded through his rude comments and eye rolls, that I didn't know what he really was underneath. But I was a mother first, and mothers always know. What Kyle didn't know was that when we set up that living trust, I had insisted at the lawyer's office that full control of the property remain with me until I died. I didn't want him selling it out from under me if he ever got ideas. It was in writing, clear as day. I never thought he'd try to kill me for it, but now that he had, it was time to fight smart. When the detective came to speak with me 2 days later, I handed him the flash drive from the doorbell cam. Kyle, hood up, gloves on, gasket in hand, walking into the garage like he was taking out the trash. Time-stamped, clear as day. The detective didn't say much. He just nodded slowly and muttered, "This'll help." The fire marshal's report backed it up. Gasoline residue in the utility room, no electrical faults, no appliances running. Arson. Intentional. Calculated. And then there was the kicker. The insurance company called me the following week. "Mrs. Holloway," they said, "your son already filed a preliminary claim, gave an estimate for rebuilding, and said you were staying with him." I nearly laughed. I was staying in a hotel paid for by the Red Cross. Kyle hadn't even brought me a blanket. I gave the adjuster the detective's name and the case number. Told them I'd cooperate fully. I wasn't just pursuing criminal charges now. I was pursuing everything. Meanwhile, Kyle kept texting me like nothing was happening. "How you holding up, Ma?" "The kids miss you." "He doesn't have kids." "Let's talk." Lawyers make everything worse. And then, 3 weeks after the fire, he made the biggest mistake of his life. He sent me an email. It was meant for his lawyer, I'm sure of it, but he CC'd me by accident, a digital slip of the tongue. In it, he wrote, "Once the house is declared a total loss, we can push for full control of the policy payout. She's old, docile. She'll fold if we corner her legally. If not, we go guardianship route. Document her confusion." He planned to have me declared incompetent. Claim I wasn't mentally fit to manage the estate, just to get the payout. That email changed everything. I forwarded it to the detective, my lawyer, and insurance company in one click. I also printed it out and carried it in my purse like a weapon. The arrest came quietly. Kyle wasn't even home. They picked him up in a parking lot near his office, still in a tailored suit, coffee in hand. Arson, attempted murder, insurance fraud, elder abuse. But here's where it gets even more twisted. His lawyer, the one he'd CC'd, was part of it too. Not just giving legal advice, but actively helping Kyle draft false documentation to paint me as senile. The investigation uncovered it all, emails, texts, even one draft of a fake doctor's note they never sent. Turns out Kyle wasn't just greedy. He was stupidly greedy. And when stupid meets selfish, they end up in matching jumpsuits. 2 months later, Kyle was indicted, and his lawyer, one of those slick suburban types who thought he was untouchable, was indicted right alongside him. The trial hadn't even started yet, and already Kyle's life was unraveling. But me? I was staying quiet, strategic, and planning my next move. The house was gone. The home I built with Bill, reduced to ashes and blackened lumber. But what Kyle didn't know, I had built a second trust, a secret one, and that house, it was just the beginning. You never forget the smell of your home after a fire. Even weeks later, when I drove by the ruins just once, just to see, I swear I could still smell the smoke clinging to the air like a ghost. But I didn't cry. I'd done my mourning when I buried Bill. That house, though beloved, was just wood and paint. The real loss was what Kyle became. Still, if he wanted to play games, he picked the wrong mother to toy with. Now, let me tell you about this second trust I mentioned. Back when Bill was alive, maybe 7 or 8 years before he passed, we sat down with a new estate attorney. Not the one Kyle knew. A no-nonsense woman named Patrice who specialized in generational safeguarding, as she called it. See, Bill and I had read enough horror stories about adult children contesting wills, selling homes from under their parents, forcing them into nursing homes for profit. It sounded far-fetched at the time, but Patrice convinced us. Plan while you still have your full strength, or you'll regret it later. So we did. We created a quiet trust, one Kyle never knew existed, naming a family friend as successor trustee. The backup plan in case of any disputes, elder abuse, or coercion of the grantor. That's lawyer speak for if your son goes nuts and tries to screw you. Everything Kyle knew about the house, the life insurance, even the retirement accounts, was under one trust. But the real assets? The land we'd bought in the Catskills, the CDs in the credit union, the 2 gold coins Bill had inherited from his grandfather, even the cabin we rarely used. All of it sat quietly under trust number 2, immune from tampering. And now I was going to put it to use. The arrest made the local papers. Local exec charged with arson in mother's home fire, it read. There was no mugshot, but the story ran with an old LinkedIn headshot of Kyle in his tailored blue suit, looking every bit the golden boy he used to be. I received maybe 4 calls that week from neighbors. Each one started the same. Margaret, I just don't understand. He always seemed like such a good boy. Good boys don't pour gasoline on their mother's floors. Meanwhile, from jail, Kyle tried the usual tactics, apologies wrapped in manipulation. He wrote letters, called me collect, even tried to get his fiancée, yes, he had one, to reach out. Poor girl. She came to the hotel where I was staying, knocked gently and said he's not himself. Please, he was stressed. He didn't mean it. I invited her in, made her tea, and handed her the flash drive with the video. Didn't say a word. Just watched her face. She left in tears. Called off the engagement 3 days later. But I wasn't done yet. See, there was still the matter of the inheritance. Kyle had no idea that Bill had named me the sole beneficiary of his private pension and veterans benefits. That trust 2, was still untouched. And now that Kyle had gone nuclear, I was taking full control of it. I moved out of the hotel and into the cabin upstate. Quiet, peaceful, wood-burning stove, deer in the backyard, and most importantly, mine. The insurance payout from the house fire? Frozen, pending the outcome of the trial. Kyle had listed himself as the primary claimant, another crime in the stack. I had my lawyer issue an injunction. Now, he'd sit in jail while his accounts drained into legal fees. His fancy lawyer buddy couldn't save him. He was too busy trying to keep himself out of prison. And me? I started building again. Not out of spite, not even out of survival, but out of principle. I'd built a life once from nothing, from Bill's modest teaching salary and my after-school tutoring checks. We made a home that raised a child, hosted Thanksgivings, and heard 50 years of laughter echo through its walls. And now that child tried to kill me for the remains of it, but he forgot one thing. Dead men don't sign deeds, but smart women leave backups. And my next move would make sure he never touched another penny again. They say justice is slow, but in my case it was thorough. The morning of Kyle's preliminary hearing, I sat in the back row of the courtroom wearing Bill's old navy blazer, his serious clothes, as he called them. I wore it like armor. It still smelled faintly of cedar and pipe tobacco. Kyle walked in cuffs. That was the first time I'd seen his hands not holding a phone, a steering wheel, or a cocktail glass. Just chained together in front of him like a toddler who'd gotten too quiet in the pantry. He didn't look at me. He looked down, like a boy about to be grounded. But this wasn't grounding. This was prison. The prosecution laid it all out. The arson evidence, the footage, the email accidentally sent to me, and the documentation his lawyer helped forge. They didn't even get to all of it before Kyle's own attorney requested a recess to renegotiate strategy. You could feel the shift in the air. Like the room knew we weren't dealing with an inheritance squabble or a bad misunderstanding. This was a son who tried to burn his mother alive and almost got away with it. But here's where the story turns. You see, I wasn't just sitting back waiting for the court system to hand me justice. I was still working, quietly, deliberately behind the scenes. After moving into the Catskills cabin, I did more than just lick my wounds. I got to work. I hired a forensic accountant, used the untouched funds from Trust 2. I gave her one instruction, follow the money. And what she found, Kyle had been bleeding me dry for years. Tiny withdrawals from accounts I didn't check often, redirected dividends, a couple of forged checks, likely when I'd been distracted during Bill's funeral. Nothing massive enough to trigger alarms, but enough that, over time, it added up to nearly $72,000. He'd been stealing from me long before he ever struck that match. The worst part? He used some of it to fund his fiancée's engagement ring. Another chunk paid for consulting fees to that sleazy lawyer of his. And the rest? God knows. Probably wine tastings and Instagram-ready vacations. With the help of my attorney and Patrice, the estate lawyer who drafted our secret trust, I filed civil charges while the criminal trial moved forward. Financial abuse, fraud, elder exploitation. It hit him like a second wave. And this time there were no collect calls, no letters, just silence from his side of the bars. But justice wasn't just about the courtroom. It was about reclaiming what he tried to erase. So I turned that little cabin into my new home. I refinished the floors with the money recovered from his accounts. Painted the kitchen myself, soft yellow like the one in the old house. I planted tulips again, even though the deer ate half of them. Bought a record player, started listening to the old vinyl Bill left behind, Patsy Cline, Johnny Cash, some Sinatra for special days. It was quiet, honest, real. I even started hosting a book club for a few local women, widows and divorcees, mostly tough as nails and sharp as tacks. We sit on the porch with coffee, watch the sunset, talk about life like it's not still surprising us at this age. They know my story, not the courtroom version, the real one. The version where a mother raised a son with every ounce of love she had, only to realize that sometimes love isn't enough to save someone from who they choose to become. And Kyle? He eventually pled guilty to a lesser charge, arson, fraud, conspiracy. No deal for early release. And his lawyer? Struck from the bar and sentenced to 5 years for his part in the scheme. The irony? Kyle still technically inherited something. The prison cot, the orange jumpsuit, the hour of sunlight in a yard that smells like bleach and regret. He got the future he designed for me. And I got my life back. But I wasn't done, not just yet. Because soon, I'd be attending one more court hearing. One that would ensure Kyle never comes near me or anything I own again. There was no dramatic music when I walked into the courtroom that day. Just the quiet murmur of a few people flipping through files, the low shuffle of shoes on linoleum, and the same worn seal of the state of New York glinting from behind the judge's bench. But for me, this wasn't just a hearing. It was closure, a quiet exorcism. I sat alone. No lawyers flanking me this time. Just Patrice a few rows back, in case things got complicated. They didn't. Kyle didn't attend in person. They had him dial in from prison. A small screen on the judge's left flickered to life. His face appeared, gaunt, pale, eyes sunken in like he'd spent a year trying to avoid the mirror. He still didn't look at me. I wasn't expecting remorse. By now, I knew better. What I came for was protection. Finality. The hearing was to finalize a permanent restraining order and formal property severance. The state had approved my petition to legally sever Kyle's claim to anything under my name, now or in the future, including survivorship claims, trust access, even burial rights. I made sure of that last one. When I die, I don't want my ashes anywhere near his. It wasn't petty. It was peace. The judge asked me if I had anything to say before the order was finalized. I stood up, my legs were steady, my voice even, and I told the truth. Not the legal version. The mother version. I raised him the best I could, with what I had, with love and grace and sacrifices no one will ever fully understand. But love isn't a contract. It's not a shield from accountability, and it should not protect a grown man from consequences of cruelty. I paused, looked at the flickering screen. I will carry grief with me every day, but not guilt. Not anymore. The judge nodded, scribbled a few things, and just like that, it was official. Kyle could no longer come within 500 feet of me, my property, my financial records, or any estate I was tied to. And if he tried, he'd be transferred to a federal facility. No parole, no leniency, no second tries. It was over. For good. When I got home, it was raining in the Catskills. I didn't mind. I made myself a cup of tea and sat on the porch swing anyway. The wind was cool and smelled like wet pine and chimney smoke. I watched the drops roll down the edge of the roof and thought about how far I'd come. From being tricked into signing away my home by the son I once held with trembling, joyful arms, to building a new one with steadier hands and clearer eyes. I thought about the first night I'd stayed here, back when I still had dreams of Kyle showing up with a smile and an apology. Those dreams had stopped eventually. Now they'd been replaced by simpler ones, like sleeping through the night without checking the locks 3 times, or eating a meal without wondering where every dollar in my account had gone, or laughing, truly laughing, with women who understood what it meant to rebuild from ash. Months later, I got a letter from the prison. From Kyle. Unopened, I placed it in a fire-safe box. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because I needed a reminder. Not all chains are made of metal. Some are handwritten in false apologies and Dear Mom beginnings. I haven't read it. I won't, because the truth is I already got my answer. I found it in the garden I planted from scratch. In the floor I sanded with my own hands. In the friends I made on the porch, sipping wine and trading stories like old soldiers comparing scars. I am not a victim anymore. I am a survivor with roots, scars, and boundaries. I don't need revenge. I need it in gut restoration. And when I look around this little cabin, I don't see what I lost. I see what I refuse to let anyone take from me again. My safety, my peace, my name. And that's worth more than any inheritance.